Dylan Wright had a great start to the season for AFC Bournemouth. Scoring goals and making a name for himself, it's safe to say that Dylan was becoming one of the best strikers in the Premier League. But when injury struck, that all changed. Bournemouth decided to cash in on the young striker and sell him for a profit. This means that on January 1st, the Dutch champions Ajax announced Dylan Wright as their new January signing. It's been a bit of a shock to the world of football, as many are scratching their heads asking themselves why Bournemouth let go of their best player. This move does have a few benefits for Dylan Wright, however. Ajax is known for converting young players into world-class talents that they will eventually sell on for big money. This means Dylan has all the right tools now to become a world-class striker. And with Ajax still being in the Champions League, this also means that Dylan will finally be able to play Champions League games if he does show that he is worthy of the Champions League. All in all, Dylan has a lot to learn at Ajax, but as soon as he finishes his course on becoming a proper striker, when he leaves Ajax, he will definitely be one of the best players in the world. But looking into the present, Dylan does get his debut for Ajax, but he doesn't really contribute that much. Considering that he did come on as a substitute, not much can be said to fault Dylan. He just did not get enough chances, but as long as the debut is out of the way, now Dylan can calm himself down, knowing that in the next game there's no more pressure. Perhaps that's what the coach was going for, subbing him on as a debutant so that in his debut he's not expected to do much, and even if he doesn't do much, then it's no harm, it's no foul. But in the second game, Dylan did have a point to prove. He comes on as a substitute again for Brobbey, who is going to be the out-and-out striker for now. But Dylan shows to the manager why he's a bit different. He's a bit special compared to Brobbey. He does get an opportunity, he does miss. But when it comes to penalties, Dylan is very good at that job, and he shows it here by scoring a goal. His first goal for Ajax is a penalty, but don't let that discredit Dylan's talent. He's a very good player, and now that the first goal is out the way too, it can only go uphill from here. Ajax picks up a 2-0 win in the league, and Dylan Wright shows his class today, putting in a good performance for his new club. Dylan was hoping to start the next game for Ajax, but he does come off the bench once more. And honestly, you can't really blame the coach too much. It's just still only been just one goal and it was a penalty. But Dylan Wright said, "You know what, coach, it's cool, it's fine. I'll still find a way to score goals." And that's exactly what he does in the hour mark, breaking the deadlock as a super sub. Dylan Wright scores a goal for Ajax. Now this could be one of the more important goals that could propel him into the starting 11, as this one goal from Dylan is the one that separates Ajax from their rivals and is the one that gives them a win. And now Dylan Wright just said to the coach, "Well, there it is, you put me in as a substitute, I scored, come on, make me a starter." But we would see what the coach would say in the next game. Soon enough, Dylan Wright gets what he asked for, a spot in the starting 11 for Ajax, and after some great performances from the young striker, he finally makes it into the starting 11, donning the number 19, taking out Brobbey, who wasn't too happy about it. But now Ajax have just put in Dylan Wright as a starter. We'll see how he does in his first game in the starting 11. Dylan Wright makes his starting 11 debut away from home against PSV Eindhoven. Not an easy team for Ajax to beat, as they are one of the title contenders in the Eredivisie, or at least they usually are. This season it has been a bit off for the Dutch team, but Dylan Wright doesn't care about that as long as he's scoring the goals, giving Ajax a more comfortable lead at the top of the table. That's what matters to him. He does bang one in. Again, it's just Dylan Wright's amazing pace, just immense pace, scoring a really quick goal too. That's going to be a record for Dylan. Fastest goal, 2 minutes, 50 seconds. But it wouldn't stop there. He takes another shot, hits the post. Unfortunately, he can't get his brace just yet. Next up to take a shot would be Tadic. Maybe a shot, maybe across to Dylan, but unfortunately, Dylan isn't quite tall enough to win that header. And PSV would attack themselves, and Ajax would get punished for their wasted opportunities, as now PSV equal the game in the 70th minute. And that is how the game would end. Ajax got punished for being wasteful, and the game ends 1-1. It's a bitter taste in the mouth of every Ajax fan and player, as they knew that that game should have been a win. But hey, that is what happens in football. If you don't score, you concede. the time is upon us for Dylan Wright to play his first European night in the world of football. It is going to be the Champions League. It's basically a dream come true for the young striker. But let's see how he will manage against a very formidable and very well playing Sevilla FC team in the round of 16. The nerves are obviously high for Dylan Wright in this game, but as a professional, the one important thing he should do is just calm himself down, put the nerves out of his mind and just focus on playing football and enjoying the game, because when Dylan starts enjoying football, he is basically unstoppable. But if Dylan enjoys football and Ajax does not play their part in the defense, the team will suffer, as Ajax are the ones who take the first blow and concede first. But Sevilla received a red card and Ajax were building up pressure, and finally Dylan Wright in the 66th minute found himself one-on-one against the goalkeeper after a smart turn, and he finally scores his first goal in European competition. The game ends 1-1, and there's one undeniable truth that everyone who supports Ajax and everyone who was watching that game has to accept. Dylan Wright just made sure that Ajax walks back to the Johan Cruyff Arena with a draw instead of a loss, making it all that more better for them to win the game, because you know how important home games can be in any competition, especially in the Champions League. This surely feels like a debut once more for Dylan Wright, the first time he wears that Ajax home shirt in a Champions League match, and Dylan would make sure he puts the pressure out of his mind as he's able to score and makes sure that he gets a goal in front of the fans, in front of the Johan Cruyff Arena. Another opportunity avails itself for Ajax on the counter-attack. Dusan Tadic is able to turn his man and create himself some distance and a chance to shoot the ball, but unfortunately it's not on target. But it doesn't really matter, as once again Dylan Wright scores and makes sure that Ajax goes through into the quarterfinals of the Champions League. But that's where the competition starts getting tough. There's a reason why most teams have been quarterfinal cursed, because that's when the weak are gone and only the strong remain. So if Ajax were to make it through to the quarterfinals, that would surely be something special. But first we'd have to wait and see who they actually got in the quarterfinals. But you'll find out soon enough. Ajax draws Manchester City in the quarterfinals, and their first tie against them will be at the Etihad Stadium. Manchester City are heavy favourites in this game, but the Ajax fans do have a bit of hope that maybe, just maybe, this new Ajax team can recreate what happened in 2019 and maybe even better it. But for that to happen, they have to get past Manchester City, and this game is also important to Dylan Wright, as it is a shadow of his past, his Premier League past. And just like they did last time they met, Erling Haaland scores against a team that Dylan Wright plays for, and he scored first. But this time, Manchester City would score again. It's not like the Bournemouth days where they have a strong defense, a gelling defense. No. Ajax's defense has been shaky in Europe, and Riyad Mahrez makes them pay. Ajax would require Dylan Wright's goal-scoring expertise once more, and Dylan Wright delivers on Ajax's call as he's able to score and cut the deficit in half. Put a comeback start for Ajax at the Etihad Stadium. It seemed unlikely for that to be the case, as Erling Haaland had a penalty and he scored it, and now Manchester City increased their advantage to 2 goals once more, and Erling Haaland scores himself a brace. And unfortunately for Ajax, there's nothing more they could do. They walk away from the Etihad Stadium 3-1 down. It is possible for a team to score 3 goals in one match, but when it's Ajax against a very top form Man City, it seems very unlikely. It seems like this is where Ajax bows out of the Champions League this season. It's Ajax's turn to play in front of their own fans in the Champions League, but the atmosphere is very low. All the hope has been sucked out of the stadium. Normally this isn't the case for the Ajax fans, but with Man City going undefeated in the Premier League so far, it was very unlikely that Ajax would be able to do much against the champions of England. This match felt more like a formality for Man City and Ajax FC, as nothing much really happened. Ajax didn't score a goal and Manchester City couldn't really score a goal themselves as well. Although City were the ones who got closer to scoring than Ajax, nothing much really happened. It was a great save from Rui, but there's no point in having a stone hard defense if, well, the attackers can't score to mount up a comeback. And just like that, Ajax gets knocked out in the quarterfinals and City goes through. Dylan Wright is obviously disappointed, feeling like he should have done better. But that just makes the fans ask themselves, what could happen if Dylan spent a full season here at Ajax? How far could they really go in the Champions League? After being knocked out of the Champions League, Ajax focused on their domestic competitions. Being knocked out of the Orange Beker too, this meant that their only trophy to win would be the league. The road to glory would not be an easy one, however, as in the last game of the season, Dylan Wright would be called upon to score in the 89th minute to give Ajax the league title. A moment that would go down into the history of Ajax, and as well as a moment that Dylan Wright would not forget for a long time, as once again, it's his goal that gives Ajax great success. If it's not putting them into the next round in the Champions League, it's definitely going to be sealing that league title for them on the final day. And you can see how happy the players are. They've worked hard for this. They've had a tough season. They've had some painful losses, especially in the Orange Beker semi-finals. But now that does not matter anymore, as they win themselves the Eredivisie another time. And Dylan Wright grabs himself his first trophy. So once more, a moment he would not be forgetting for a long time.